Hey, it's Thomas Scar Arc 11, and as you might know, attacker classes make for better tanks than defenders in Xenoblade 3. If you didn't know that, then I have a guide on tanks going over it that you can find linked in the top right. But that doesn't mean that defenders aren't worth using, so here's some ways that you can use defender classes that aren't just standard tanks that are inferior to attackers. These still aren't optimal, but they're a lot more unique and gives you something more interesting if you just want to use defender classes. The main one we'll be looking at is the Nicole build, using a defender the same way you would build Nicole in Future Redeemed by stacking the usual damage reduction, but for a support build with no concern for aggro. The idea here is to use Memory Locket and Revive Gems to create a tough-to-kill Revive bot who will be there to recover the fight if your healers ever go down. This can be used on any of them, but works best with the bulky tanks like Heavy Guard, Lost Vanguard, and Guardian Commander, so we'll go over the main part of the build first, then look at the specifics of those three classes. For accessories, the most important is of course the Memory Locket, the core piece of this build so that your defender can revive as if they were a healer. Followed by Shield Belt for damage reduction. I go over damage reduction in the tank guide I mentioned earlier for anyone unfamiliar with the details, so I won't be going over it again here, and the Masha version of Shield Belt is a better option if you can get your hands on a good one. The third accessory can be whatever you want, but I'll just list some options you may want to use. HP up like Titanium Temple Guard for increased bulk and for a wider range to trigger skills like Heavy Guard's block rate increase. And then block rate increases like Martis Rings or Smart Protector, not needed on Heavy Guard because of the aforementioned skill that it already has. Fraternal Badge because faster arts is always good and you'll only ever have aggro when most of the team is down. And lastly, Devotional Necklace for recharge when you revive, pretty self-explanatory why you'd want that. For skills, you can put on some combination of your party-wide passives like Swift Song, Essence of Ether, Beaming Edge, or Abundant Oceans, since they'll always be alive to keep those skills active for the whole party. And then for extra safety, you can throw in Natural Selection to ensure that you maintain 100% damage reduction, even if your sources from other party members like Defense Up and Awakening expire while your teammates are down and not able to refresh them. Onto the class-specific builds, we'll start with Heavy Guard. Heavy Guard is probably the best suited for this thanks to very good bulk, access to solid stance, the best defender field providing damage reduction to nearby party members, and its block rate skill giving you added security if you get to low HP. For arts, you naturally want Solid Stance, then Bull Rush for the combo, and for the last slot I like Crash Out for its quick cooldown, but Uppercut Slash works too. For Master Arts, Oriole and Resonant Flag to provide buff support. It's preferred to fuse Oriole with Crash Out or Uppercut Slash for AI fusion usage. And last slot can be Ring of Roses for more support or anything else you find useful if you don't want the field. Variable Turret plus Shield Wall is another option that could be interesting for emergency self-healing, but I don't know if the AI will actually use it effectively. It also means Oriole gets a worse fusion pairing where it'll just be used more on its own, making it much slower, so I wouldn't recommend using this idea at all unless you really want to control it yourself. Guardian Commander is next. Mostly the same as Heavy Guard, you fuse Oriole with Falcon Swoop for speed. It has worse base arts, but Grand Protection can still work by giving you perfect block rate, though Heavy Guard can get that already at low HP from its skill. Keep in mind that blocking is a separate damage reduction though that does not stack with all other forms of damage reduction. The only thing Guardian Commander really has over Heavy Guard to make it interesting to use is its field All Help. Take attacks for nearby allies at low HP and add 20% damage reduction to those redirected attacks. You can take advantage of this field to let Guardian Commander tank for other party members without actually holding any aggro itself. Staying in this field though is very difficult, so this isn't a good option by any means, but it might be fun for a more position-heavy play style. Just keep in mind it's going to be really hard to actually play around, either as the Guardian Commander or as another party member that's trying to stay in the Guardian Commander's field. And last up is Lost Vanguard. It can't be a flagger, but it does have an Armor Veil field and can run advanced cooldown for defensive support. Arts are a bit restricted here since you can't have more than one stance active at a time, and you don't want Smash on a build that isn't DPS, so Electro Field, Shockwave, and Shield Wall are the only choices. For Master Arts, you of course want Solid Stance and Advanced Cooldown as just mentioned. The third can be a combo art like Shield Bash or Soaring Tempest. For Vanguard, it's preferred you run an HP up accessory because Armor Veil scales off the user's HP stat. You want that going up as high as possible. Also, your skill slots can be more limited on this one because you'll need All About support from Signifer if you want to run both defensive fields. And I don't have a full build for it to show, but quick mention to Noponic Champion for having a non-positional instant break topple fusion niche. Mostly relevant to speed kills, not regular play, but if you wanted to use it, it's doable. So those are some ways you can use a few defender classes as supportive tanks. If you have other support builds for them that I didn't think of, leave them in the comments. Also, let me know if you find any of these useful, or if you prefer just having no defenders to be more optimal. And if you want more guides on builds and mechanics, look at the playlist on the left, and see you next time!